Hi, this is Carol Pope.
Hi, I'm Kevin Staples.
And you're listening to Rainbow Country
with Mark Tara.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the persons appearing on the program.
Today on Rainbow Country, coverage of the 30th Annual Hot Docs Film Festival, where I'm going to bring you some of the LGBT aspects of the festival. Today, a spotlight on two documentaries, Unsinkable and Coven. Plus, my Big Brother Canada coverage continues with the most recent Evicted Houseguest. That and more on episode 350, so stay tuned for Gay Talk Radio right here on Rainbow Country.
Hello, my name is Conchita.
And I'm Barbecue.
And my name is Hardcora. And we are the B Girls.
You're listening to
Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Hello and welcome to a brand new journey through Rainbow Country. As I like to call it, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. And as always, I am your tour guide through Rainbow Country. I'm producer and host, Mark Tara. By the way, Rainbow Country originates from CIUT FM in Toronto and now proudly in syndication on 12 outlets across Canada, from coast to coast to coast. The Yukon, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the east coast of Canada in Newfoundland, Ontario, even down to Buffalo, New York, and online. Well, thanks to you tuning in, streaming, downloading, but ultimately listening. Together we continue to build Rainbow Country into a nationally syndicated gay radio show, a #1 LGBT podcast on Podomatic.com's Gay and Lesbian chart, as well as being recognized as Canada's #2 LGBT podcast on Feedspot.com. So today, the 30th Annual Hot Docs Film Festival that showcases the best in Canadian and international documentaries. This year's festival features 214 documentaries from 72 countries. Today, a spotlight on two documentaries. Unsinkable, a documentary that follows 6 senior artistic swimmers aged 63 to 82 who are pushing physical, emotional, and societal boundaries as they prepare for the U.S. Masters Artistic Swimming Championships. Writer and director Meyer Wennberg and Cris Meyer-Windes of the San Francisco Tsunami LGBTQ+ swim team are my guests. Plus, Coven, which follows 3 millennial women, exploring essentially what it means to identify as a witch in today's world. Queer witch Laura Hokstad joins me to talk about her journey that is captured in Coven. Plus in hour 2, music from LGBT artists, independent artists, voices that we've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house, and on this episode I'm featuring some classic 70s, some queer electronic, and more. All that lies ahead as we start journey 350 through Rainbow Country. But first up, a shout out to Peter B, who listens to Rainbow Country on CKCU FM in Ottawa, the nation's capital. This is the second week in a row where Peter B shares some of his thoughts with us. He writes and identifies as a boring straight white guy / person. Peter writes, just listening along and wanted to say thank you so much for this program and its wonderful diversity. openness to all creatures. Community radio is important. Peter B., thank you for your kind words, and I couldn't have said it better myself. Up next, the most recent evicted house guest from Big Brother Canada, Season 11.
Tonight.
Wow.
This looks amazing, guys.
The table is set. They think it's a celebration.
Cheers.
But this dinner will be off the chain. And for one of them, their game will be over. It's Fatal Feast Night on Big Brother Canada.
House guests, it's time to announce the victim of Big Brother's Fatal Feast. By a unanimous vote, Santina, you have been evicted from the Big Brother Canada manor. Please say your goodbyes.
Santina, hi, how are you?
Hi, Mark. I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am well. Santina, let's jump right in. You were taken out by a Fatal Feast chain of safety, unanimous vote. Did that vote surprise you?
No, not at all. Not at all.
So when it comes to the vote, is there anyone you feel betrayed by?
One person. I was hoping he would vote for me to stay. However, I understand that hope. He needs to do what's best for his game, and I respect it because I probably would have done the same. So no hard feelings hurt.
Santina, let's go back in time. The library, the puzzle, the invitation. What was the mood like in that library when you guys were putting together that puzzle? What was the mood like in the library?
So you could really tell who was working with who. And, I was just there. I just wanted to be a part. And it was intense. It was an intense feeling. But I didn't know that it was going to lead to my eviction. So I probably would have handled it a little bit differently.
So after the chain of safety and the chandelier safety competition, Renee and yourself were essentially up for eviction. Did you find it challenging campaigning for votes? Was that challenging for you?
It wasn't too challenging because I knew that people weren't going to vote for me. And I knew through the whole season I was telling people to do what's best for their game. And I know if I was in their position, I would have took the shot as well and not have voted for myself to stay because, I know I was a competitor and I knew that I was doing absolutely everything I could say and do to stay in that game. And I was just, at the end of it, I was just grateful to be there. So
Santina, you're off to the jury house. What kind of gameplay will you be looking for when you get to cast a vote for the winner of Big Brother Canada Season 11?
I will probably look for someone who has been playing their game and someone who has been making moves since day one. Not a floater. I'm not into that. I just want to see an overall strong woman win this season.
Who do you think is playing the best game?
I think that Kusi Koo, I think she's playing an amazing game right now, and she has a huge chance of winning.
So, Santina, you were the very first head of household for season 11. You were also taken out by a fatal feast, chain of safety. Looking back, any regrets when it comes to your gameplay?
No, not at all. I think I did exactly what I needed to do to survive each week, but it's unfortunate that this last week I was taken out, but I get it. It was a game move, and people have to do what's best for them.
Santina, I have to say, well said, well done, well played. Thank you for your time. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks. Have a good day, Mark.
Big Brother Canada airs on Global TV Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, and Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern. For all things Big Brother, simply visit bigbrothercanada.ca.
Hi, everybody. This is Gino Vanelli. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Up next, we find out about the new Canadian documentary, Unsinkable.
I can't do what I did 50 years ago, but I'm doing something. Swimming gives me confidence that I'm still in the game.
Well, Luther, you need to set them up where they belong. Take a bow.
I don't want to embarrass myself, you know? I'm swimming against some pretty tough competition. Is that better?
No.
Mirror.
Wow.
Wow. Some of my younger teammates, you tell them once and they've got it, and that isn't me.
So what do you have coming up?
4 weeks, nationals.
Are you going to make it?
I don't know.
When you meet someone that's the love of your life, you want it to go on forever, but there really is no forever. Synchro, it saved my life.
Most people look at me in the water and they go, wow. That's amazing.
Good luck, my friends. Yes. We're going after I love you. Sword, right?
The time will end up getting stretched. And if it doesn't, shut it down.
Yeah.
There are so many people out there who are just like me in this water thing. You gotta grab a passion. You gotta grab it by the tail and hold it. Don't let it go.
Megan Wennberg, hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am well. Cris Meyer-Windes, hello.
Correct. Hi.
Hi. For both of you, am I saying both your names correctly?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Yay. That's important. I have to say thank you both for being here to have your voices, your stories be heard by the LGBT community and beyond. So thank you for that, especially to talk about your new documentary called Unsinkable. Megan, you wrote this documentary, you directed this documentary. Talk to me about coming from the power that created this. Megan, talk to me about this documentary, Unsinkable, and essentially what is this documentary about?
Really, Unsinkable is we're following a group of athletes in their 60s to 80s who are synchronized swimmers, and we were watching them following them as they were getting ready to compete. But far beyond that, just getting to know them as people and what drives them in this beautiful and really difficult sport. And for me, it was just an incredible opportunity to get to meet people where aging doesn't matter and age is just a number, and they are continuing to just push themselves and excel. And yeah, it was so wonderful to meet all of these athletes and yeah, just get to see them do what they do so well.
So, Cris, you are an athlete. You are a swimmer. You've been swimming for, I think it's fair to say, decades. How did you become part of this documentary? Talk to me about how you got involved with Unsinkable.
It seems like it was a long time ago now, but
yeah,
I guess it was a year and a half ago. I got a message asking me to participate. I think maybe it was Suzanne got it first, and then she forwarded it to me, and I just said, yeah, I'll participate, not a problem. Anything for synchro.
So, Megan, you like I mentioned before, you wrote this, you directed this. Was there a flashpoint? Was there a moment that sparked the idea for Unsinkable? Was there a moment that gave you the inspiration to create this documentary?
So the original idea was actually brought to me by the producers. They wanted to do a documentary looking at master synchronized swimmers. But for me, what really brought it to life was when I started doing the research and actually getting to meet and speak to some of the swimmers and realizing that it was a much bigger story. Like in this case, we're profiling synchronized swimmers, but really what we're profiling is like incredible people who seem to have kind of cracked the secret to aging well. And they happen to do it through synchronized swimming. But for me, it was really that, like seeing, wow, these are people that I aspire, like I want to live as well when I'm that age, because they seem to have it down. And that's really inspiring.
And Megan, for this documentary, how did you guys end up finding these individuals, these groups that would be part of Unsinkable? Talk to me about that process.
We hired a researcher, and then me and one of the producers, we were doing research as well. And we found out, in Chris's case, we found out about the Tsunami team in San Francisco, and we're really interested to learn more about them. And so I spoke to Suzanne Baker, the coach, just about the team and what her involvement was. And then I was asking about the different athletes on the team, and she recommended that I speak to Cris. So that's how that all got started. And then as soon as I spoke to Cris, I knew that when we came to San Francisco, I definitely wanted to follow up more with him.
So, Cris, you are an American, correct?
Yep.
And this documentary, Unsinkable, features both American and Canadian swimmers. You are part of a synchro team called Tsunami, made up of both men and women. This is the first time that I ever saw that personally. Like, I know synchro swimming with just, like female swimmers doing it, like, in the Olympics, that sort of thing. So talk to me about this co-ed team, Tsunami, and the fact that it is integrated. Talk to me about that aspect.
Well, our first year, it was 2004, and we recruited our coach at a big meet. She was in a event and doing synchro, and it impressed us so much. We decided we needed that. And that first year, it was all men except for one woman. And over time, it's evolved. It became, for a while, it was more women than men. And now it's sort of 50-50. But you're right. We would go to nationals, and there'd be maybe one or two other teams with one man on it. Is there a movement to integrate these teams, or to create even like an all men's synchro category? Because so far it's always been women, correct? Right. In '84. Synchro got admitted to the Olympics, women only. And so when we first started in 2004 and up to this year, we have to participate. Men participate competing against women. There's only one category. So I always thought it was not fair. These women train all their lives and I come to it late in my life and I have to compete against them. But it was hard. They have all the talent. They have all the practice. So this year, at least United States Masters Synchro, artistic swimming, they decided that they come out with a policy now. They're going to have a women's, girls, women category and a men's, boys category and an open category for anyone who wants to do that. So I'm proud of that. I've been waiting 19 years for that. So we'll see where that goes. But it's just very inclusive instead of, the way it had been.
So this is just the master's aspect of the master's category of synchro swimming that's going to be integrated then? It's not like the regular thing that you would see at the Olympics.
Right. Except for last year, they adopted some new rules internationally where they are going to allow men to participate at the Olympic level. They have been, but only in the duet category. So now you can do duets. Now they're going to allow it for trios, and I guess they only do trios at that level, but or duets. But I don't think they're going to have, two men in a duet yet, but it's possible. And this will be the first time, I think the Olympics next year. This will be the first time that they're allowing men to participate in the team event. And so it could be 4 men and 4 women. So that'll be exciting to see the Olympics like that, like we've been doing for 19 years.
Yeah.
So it is changing. It's evolving finally.
Megan, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I'm just so glad that it is changing. Like after having heard Chris's story and thinking what it must have been like to find out about the sport and be really interested as a kid and then not be able to do it because you're a boy, like that's just so crazy to me. So I'm really glad that is changing so that now, any kid can hopefully do any sport that they're drawn to.
So Megan, the title, Unsinkable. Talk to me about the title and how you guys ended up on this title for this documentary.
So Unsinkable, it's what I've wanted to call it from the beginning, just because I think it speaks to both the theme of the film and that really I feel like our characters are pretty unsinkable. Like they just keep going and keep trying and keep pushing themselves. But also obviously the play on words with synchro. And it, we also had the advantage of one of our characters, Sue, her team name is the Unsinkables of La Mirada. So it's been, the top contender for me from the beginning for the title.
So Cris, you've competed at the Gay Games before.
Correct.
This is in the documentary. Talk to me about the medals that you've won from the Gay Games and the fact that a certain word had to be scratched out, left out of these medals that you won at the Gay Games, and that word is Olympic. Talk to me about that.
Well, that was at the first games, which I was doing the speed swimming. And the Olympic Committee sued the founder of Gay Games and put a lien on his house, and he had to have that done to the medals, had to trash all the posters, and because you can't fix those. I remember some friends told me, "Oh, we saved you some posters from that actually say Olympics on them because we went dumpster diving." And I said, "Great, when can I have them?" But I have yet to receive them. But that experience just strengthened my will to participate in that event as much as I could, because just because it was so vindictive. That was the first time I ever heard that the United States Congress could give away the rights to a word, and then they had the right to sue other people for using that word without their permission. It's just very un-American. So it drove me to make my participation part of that cause.
So Megan, part of this, some of the footage in this documentary Unsinkable is underwater.
Yes.
How challenging was that to film underwater, or is this, something that you've done before?
Oh, my cinematographer, Paul, who's extraordinary, hates the water. So the poor guy ended up having to get in a lot more pools, God, in the past year than probably maybe in his life. I'm not sure about that. But I know when we were filming in San Francisco, I was lying on the pool deck, just holding the camera underwater because he was operating a couple other cameras. So it was a bit of a team effort to get the footage that we needed, both above and below the surface. By the time we were doing our second round of filming, Paul was in the water a lot more, and he's so talented that it almost didn't matter that he'd never done it before. He's just able to figure out the best way of doing anything with the camera, I think.
It's excellent footage.
Yeah. Thank you.
So Cris, you talk about this at length in the documentary when you made the statement that synchro swimming saved your life. Talk to me a bit about what you meant by that statement, that synchro swimming saved your life. How?
It came along in the same year that my partner of 25 years passed away, within months of each other. The synchro team started, and then he passed away. And it was so painful for me to go to swim practice, and not have him in the next lane over. So that's when I decided to give up on the swimming. I think I gave up on it for 14 years. I never raced. And just did synchro and concentrated on that exclusively. It just, I don't know, it was freer. And so I was attracted to it. It didn't have, I wasn't bogged down with loneliness. I don't know. It took that part away, and it wasn't painful anymore. And it made swimming fun again. And I had a new sport to try and master. So it took my mind off my problems, and I ran with it. It was exciting. It's still exciting for me.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Mm-hmm. So this last question is for both of you, and it's simply this. And Megan, I'll start with yourself, but what do you hope audiences come away with after they've seen this documentary, Unsinkable? Megan, what do you hope audiences come away with?
Oh, I hope they really come away with knowing that it's never too late to try something new and to start doing something that you love, and to try and find a team. Just to keep going, whether it's swimming or horseback riding or pottery or anything else, but just to find something you love and keep doing it.
And Cris, for yourself, what do you hope audiences come away with after they've seen Unsinkable?
I feel exactly the same way. It's never too late to find a new thing to be enthused with life, and pursue it and have joy and get something out of it, and improve and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Well said to both of you. I have to say, well said, well done, well filmed, well made.
Thanks. Thank you so much for your interest.
Oh, you're more than welcome, Megan, Cris. Thank you both for your time, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I can't do what I did 50 years ago, but I'm doing something. Swimming gives me confidence that I'm still in the game.
Well, Luther, you need to set them up where they belong. Take a bow.
I don't want to embarrass myself, you know? I'm swimming against some pretty tough competition. Is that better?
No. Mirror.
Wow.
Some of my younger teammates, you tell them once and they've got it, and that isn't me.
So what do you have coming up?
4 weeks, nationals.
Are you going to make it?
I don't know.
When you meet someone that's the love of your life, you want it to go on forever, but there really is no forever. Synchro, it saved my life.
Most people look at me in the water and they go, wow, that's amazing.
I love you.
The time will end up getting stretched. And if it doesn't, shut it down.
Unsinkable is playing at Hot Docs in person and online. For more information, hotdocs.ca. Plus, the film will have a fall 2023 broadcast premiere on Vision TV.
Hi, I'm Saida Garrett, co-writer of Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mr. Mark Tara.
The 30th Annual Hot Docs Film Festival runs in person in Toronto, April 27th to May 7th. And a curated selection of over 100 films will be available to stream nationwide for a 5-day period, May 5th to May 9th. The 30th Annual Hot Docs Film Festival showcases the best in Canadian and international documentaries, and this year's festival features 214 documentaries from 72 countries. There are a number of LGBT documentaries that are part of this year's festival, both in person and online. Some documentaries to look out for include the two featured in today's episode, Unsinkable and Coven. Another film to look out for, trans documentary, A Happy Man, a film that tells the transition story of Marvin. This film is playing at Hot Docs in person and online. And by the way, the filmmaker Sonia Luther and Marvin will be my guests next week. Another film to look out for, It's Only Love After All, a documentary about lesbian musical duo Indigo Girls. Plus, Love to Love You, Donna Summer. The Donna Summer documentary hits Hot Docs this year. The 30th Annual Hot Docs Film Festival runs in person in Toronto, April 27th to May 7th, and online, May 5th to May 9th. For more information, hotdocs.ca.
Hi, everyone. This is Mark Tewksbury, Olympic champion, leader, humanitarian. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Up next, the new Canadian documentary, Coven.
What do you think a witch is?
Witchcraft helps us to reclaim our own narratives.
More or less, I feel like I'm a witch politically and for a feminist reason. giving women power is a thing where cultures don't want to do it.
Something is ready to open and receive you.
The past and the present and the future are always overlapping.
Very seldom do you come upon a time like this, when you may wonder who you are after all.
Laura Hokstad, hi, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
I have to say thank you for being here to have your voice, your story be heard by the LGBT community and beyond. So thank you for that, especially to talk about a new documentary that you are featured in, Coven. This is the new documentary, Canadian documentary. You are one of three individuals that are featured in this, three women that are featured. You're all witches. Talk to me about Coven and what this documentary is essentially about.
Yeah, absolutely. So the documentary follows myself as well as two other people who identify as witches. And it kind of goes through each of our journeys in our ways of kind of coming to terms with that word and what it means and how we incorporate that practice and the idea of witchcraft into our daily lives. And we also kind of trace it back through our ancestry and our heritage and find out how it's connected that way as well.
So you are featured in Coven. You identify as a witch. We think of witches, you've got the black cat, you've got the broom, you've got flying, you've got magic, you've got powers. In 2023, what does it mean to be a witch, to identify as a witch?
Mm-hmm. I feel like the overarching umbrella of witchcraft is very large and there's lots of different belief systems within it. So I think that being a witch can mean something different to every person who's kind of under that umbrella. But for me personally, I say this in the documentary as well, I kind of tend to identify as a witch in more of like for political reasons or almost as a feminist as well. I find that the term witch can be very divisive. It can put people off because we have this stereotype in our heads of this like evil woman who's ugly and does spells in the woods and kidnaps children and all of these things. So I think initially people are kind of put back from that. And what I found through this film and through my own just life experience is that being a witch is something that I find a lot of power in. I find a lot of power in that identity. And I like that I can say I'm a witch and then I can open up conversations about it to kind of dispel those kind of old fashioned ideas of what a witch is.
So Wicca and witches, what's the difference?
Well, I mean, under that term, like I said, witchcraft, there are different belief systems. And some people identify with the Wiccan religion. There's also like Alexandrian witchcraft and different ones that all kind of fall under that umbrella. And each of them have their own practices, their own rituals, and their own structures within that organization. So I find that Wicca is a bit more structured in their beliefs and rituals. And for myself, I have always just kind of felt comfortable with just witch because I tend to do any type of practice by myself. So like a solitary witch. I like to just do rituals alone because I feel more comfortable that way. So things that I would do would be like, being aware of the moon cycles. And if we think about the way the moon affects everything in the world, tides and things like that, it also makes sense that it would affect us. So say when it's a full moon, if the moon is at its biggest, and then after that it shrinks again. So that can be a good time. The energy around that is kind of like you can release something. And then I would pay attention to like a new moon would be good for bringing something in because it's the beginning stages of that. So those would be kind of examples of like what my practice entails, I guess.
So no, being part of a group naked dancing around a fire.
I mean, I do get to see that side of it in the documentary. And I think that structure and those practices really work for some people, and they find great strength and community in those types of rituals. And but the great thing about it is that it doesn't have to be the same for everyone. So I find that the reason that I've kind of been a solitary witch as well, and maybe haven't put myself out there for those kinds of covens, is that like I said, I feel more comfortable being by myself in my practice. And also, I talk about this in the documentary a bit. I didn't really get to explore the witchcraft side of myself until I got a bit older, because when I was younger, I was bullied, and the rumors that were said about me in school were that I was a lesbian and a witch. And then when I got older, it turns out that the bullies were right about both of those things. So it kind of, those, at the time in the 90s, it was a lot harder to come out. And so it was almost like I was kind of closeted from both of those aspects of my life for a while. And then it wasn't until I got into my 20s that I started to explore both of them.
So in the documentary, we essentially follow your journey to discovering your family lineage. Mary Esty. Who is Mary Esty?
Mary Esty is a woman who was tried and killed during the Salem witch trials. And her story is very interesting because she was accused, but then was released, and then months later was accused again and then killed. And we were able to trace my heritage back to her. She's my 7th great grandmother. And so I got to go to Salem. I got to see where the trials took place, and they have a stone in memory of her and the other victims of the Salem witch trials that we were able to go visit. So it was a very emotional experience because I was always interested and drawn to the Salem witch trials. And then to find out that I'm ancestrally connected to it, it just kind of made sense that I had such an interest in it. And it was, I guess, exciting in a way to find that connection. But then after those feelings subsided, it kind of was replaced with anger and just when you realize that the women and the one man who was accused of witchcraft at that time, it's not like they were our stereotype of a witch. They weren't, sitting around a big cauldron, like flying on broomsticks. No, the more realistic aspect of that is that these women were healers, that these women were maybe outspoken, that maybe they were unmarried, maybe they were queer. These were all reasons that somebody could be accused of being a witch. So when you kind of find out that side of it, it really, I found it made me sad and angry.
What's interesting is in the documentary, you talk about when you were younger, you would tell your mom that you were a witch. You are a witch.
Mm-hmm.
I find that interesting.
Yeah, like I had this memory, and I told her when I was a kid, I was like, I think I was killed in the Salem witch trials in a past life. And my mom was just like, oh, okay. Laura's just being a weird kid.
How old were you? Do you have any idea?
Like, I would say like maybe like 7, like just like, I don't even know if I knew much about the witch trials at that time or anything, but I just like had this, I was like, that's what happened to me in a past life.
So after you found out this connection to Mary Esty, you were just talking about it, when you found that out, your emotions turned to anger after a period of time. How are you now? How are you feeling now about knowing this connection?
Well, I'm very thankful that I know this connection, and I think it's helped me do more research about what kind of went into the Salem witch hunts and what, like I said, the reason why these women were accused. So I just feel like I got more educated on it, and it still angers me when we think about that it was just so easy to lob this accusation against someone and for their whole lives to be over because of it, because someone just said, hey, maybe they didn't like that person and they just accused them of witchcraft, and then that was it. So it just, I don't know. I feel like it kind of hits home, especially like now in the world that we're in now as well. Like when we see people's rights being taken away, it just kind of feels like we haven't really changed in some ways, in others, but in other ways we have. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a conflicted feeling about knowing this part of my history.
It was so funny when in the documentary, the occult bookstore in Toronto is featured.
Yes.
And I used to go to that bookstore.
Oh, no way.
On Bathurst Street.
Yeah.
At the original location. I don't know. I guess it's a few doors down from where it is now.
Yes.
To where it was originally. I haven't been there in years, but I got a good laugh out of that.
You're like, I know where that is.
I know that store. I love going into that store.
So, did you have an interest in like the occult and witchcraft and things like that?
I don't know if witchcraft would be the appropriate word. It would be more like I was on a self-realization path, so to speak, in regards to finding out about spirituality. And I studied yoga, and I did seva at an ashram in Lenox, Massachusetts, and all this sort of stuff. And it's interesting now, because now I feel that I don't necessarily need to be anywhere or within, four walls of a building to be connected to something, because wherever you are, that's where you are. Whether you're in a church or a synagogue or a mosque or in a park, you're there. And you can access whatever you choose to.
I love the way that you said that. That's absolutely it. It's if you can connect to that feeling, that belief, or whatever it is for you, you can really center yourself wherever you are.
Absolutely. And I would say I was definitely more on a spiritual journey. Definitely. You talk about in the documentary about, and you just mentioned it, about when you were younger and in school, the kids would bully you for, they'd call you a witch, they'd call you a lesbian, and those two things turned out to be true.
Yeah.
But how challenging, how difficult were those days in school for you?
They were really bad. I ended up changing schools because of it. It just put me inside myself, I guess. It just like pushed me more in. Like, I'm already an introverted person. I'm already kind of socially anxious anyway. And then, I don't know if that made it worse or it was already there. But it was just, I would just hide in the library most days. I didn't really have a lot of friends. It was weird. And I don't really know how those rumors started or why. I don't even know specifically who, but it just kind of caught on. And at that time, I think not that it wouldn't hurt if somebody had rumors said about them, but I feel like if the thing is going around that you're a lesbian and a witch, I feel like those are pretty cool things to be, but I just didn't feel it at that time. And it felt more like, that I was being othered, that I was, pushed out of every group. So then I changed schools and it got better, but I feel like I was like really closeted for a long time because of that. It made me not explore that side of myself. So it wasn't until in my 20s. And it's weird because I feel that my queerness and being a witch is so tightly wound together because of how all of that happened when I was younger. So it's like when I started to unravel I was looking more into witchcraft and I was looking more into those types of things. And then I realized that I was also ignoring this other big part of me. And it took really starting to unpack both of those things for me to come out and finally be who I was. And I feel like I'm kind of returning back to that person before they were bullied now.
Mm. So where you are today, how are you feeling about yourself and your sexual identity and your identity as a witch? How are you sitting with all of this?
Oh, just sitting proudly, sitting up straight, being so happy all the time, really. Like I think it also took moving to a bigger city. I grew up in a pretty small town in Northern Ontario. I didn't know anyone who was like me. I'm sure there were queer people, but they were also closeted or not out to themselves yet, like compulsory heteronormativity and all that. But when I moved here, I found community, and I just feel like I have a loving partner, and we've been together since 2020. We met like right before the lockdowns, and she loves all parts of me. She embraces my witchy side, and it's just, I feel like I'm in such a better place, and I'm really happy.
Mm. Your story reminds me of Anne Rice's Mayfair Witches. There's a TV show that recently came out.
Ooh, I've never read the book or watched it, but I do love Anne Rice.
Yeah. You should check out the TV series. It's really good, but it's essentially about this young professional woman who doesn't know anything about, witchcraft or being a witch or anything, but discovers that she's a witch, and and that's her lineage.
Okay, I have to watch it. That's too crazy.
yeah, and it reminded me when I saw your documentary. That show came to me in regards to she's very similar to this. Interesting. Yeah. Do you know the long-term plan for this documentary? Right now it's doing the festival circuit scene. Is there a plan to get it onto a Netflix or a Crave or something?
I think I have heard rumors that it could possibly go on to GEM, the
CBC GEM.
CBC, CBC GEM. I think it could go there, but I'm not totally sure yet. But I know that in the fall it will probably be streaming. I'm just not quite sure where that's landed yet.
Well said. I have one last question for you.
Yes.
What do you hope audiences come away with after they've seen Coven?
I hope that audiences can come away from this documentary with a wider understanding of witchcraft and what it looks like through different cultural lenses and through different people's experiences. And I hope that it can kind of dispel this pervasive thought that witches are evil or that their practices are scary. And I just hope that people can see that it is a very beautiful thing. It's very connected. And each person's story is so very different and important to tell. So I just hope that people can come away with a better understanding of witchcraft and what that means.
I have to say, Laura, thank you so much for your time. Well said. Well done. Great.
Oh, thank you. I was kind of nervous.
Great. Your story is amazing. All the stories in this documentary are incredible. And thank you for being open enough to sharing your journey. Well done.
I appreciate you talking with me. Thank you so much.
What do you think a witch is?
Witchcraft helps us to reclaim our own narratives.
More or less, I feel like I'm a witch politically and for a feminist reason. Giving women power is a thing where cultures don't want to do.
Something is ready to open and receive you.
The past and the present and the future are always overlapping.
Very seldom do you come upon a time like
Coven is playing at Hot Docs in person and online. For more information, check out the website hotdocs.ca. And for even more on this particular documentary, covendoc.com.
Hi, I'm Keegan Hurst, former professional rugby player, coach, raving homosexual, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Bill 7, to ban discrimination in employment, government services, and housing, based on a person's sexual orientation, was up for a vote at Queen's Park. Most NDP and Liberal MPPs supported the bill, but without some progressive Conservative legislators backing, a divisive split could rack the province. 4 PCs decided to break party ranks to vote with their conscience and support Bill 7. Cabinet Minister and MPP Dennis Timbrell did it to show solidarity for his beloved brother, the well-known drag queen Rusty Ryan. And for me, a gay politician who was not yet out, I had to take a stand. We were known as the Gang of Four. I'm former Cabinet Minister and MPP Phil Gillies. The date, December 2nd, 1986, when LGBT rights came to Ontario.
And just like that, this little gay journey through Rainbow Country has come to an end. For the full 2-hour episode, simply head over to marktara.com, where everything is connected, and hit the archives banner. To keep up to date with the show, check out my socials at Mark Tara. The podcast is available on all major platforms, including audible.com and iHeartRadio. Finally, I want to take this time to thank you for taking your time to be with me. Remember, we are living in days of making dreams come true, so believe in yourself, and the world will believe in you.
Hi, this is Police Constable Danielle Botno, also known as LGBT Cop, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.